Hello. All right, guys, I am here live. I'm talking about gene keys and your brand. So when I think about brand, it's a very different way that I used to think about branding. So first I'll introduce myself. My name is Jenny. I am a longtime designer, graphic artist, photographer. So I've been in this industry a long time, and I've kind of turned into more of a conscious, more spiritual business owner. So when I think about brand, to me now is very different than when the way I was taught to look at a brand. So just to clarify that, the way I look at a brand is of my essence, of your essence. So each of us has a different essence that we're going to put out as our brand, as conscious business owners, as spiritual business owners. So this is who this is directed at, and helping you to clarify that brand, so that you can, put your message out there to the world. So that's what this live is about. I help people kind of discover their true essence, and the way that I do that is through the ancient systems, which are gene keys, astrology. I also am very keen on using intuition, and that everything that you produce is coming from the inside out, not outside in, which is also another one of the areas that I find people get tripped up on their brand, because the first thing that I would have used to do and helping people brand themselves was like, hey, look around, see what other people are doing. Put together a Pinterest board. And I still, use that technique, but more for like the meat and potatoes of like aesthetic look. But before we get to aesthetics, there needs to be this connection with your brand essence, which essence actually comes from the word to be. So this is kind of where I bridge the gap of like what you're attracting is really coming from what you're actually being. So that's how I like to look at a brand now. And so at the end of this, I'm going to tell you about what work I do with one-on-one work, brand mentorship, which is called Inception, which is a new offer that I'm doing right now. I'll tell you at the end. Anyway, so if you don't know about the gene keys, you can go to genekeys.com and get your hologenetic profile, which gives you a map of your profile, which looks like this. Yay, working. So the ones that I've circled in the green are the ones that I look at, the spheres in our profile that I look at for branding. You can look at more or less whatever. This is where I like to look. So a quick rundown on the Gene Keys fundamentals. So your hologenetic profile is made up of your astrology, the I Ching, the Kabbalah, and these all of the 64 areas of your I Ching coordinate to an area of your DNA. So it's a cool system, and I love it because it's sciencey yet ancient technology, and so that's why I'm so stoked on it. It's when you go to genekeys.com, you enter your birth information and you get this. And a lot of these spheres are also tied to your astrology and your human design. So if you're familiar with those systems, you'll start to understand how they're woven together. And each one of these spheres that you see here is kind of a pathway on your journey to I guess you could say purpose, enlightenment, and kind of just truth altogether. So you can use this system in so many more ways than just branding. that's just how I'm looking at this through this lens. There's 3 different frequencies of each one of these spheres. There's the low frequency, which they call the shadow. The gift frequency, which is the middle word, which you can see right. So if you look at the top profile, you'll see my 59.3. You'll see the top is transparency, intimacy, and dishonesty. So dishonesty is the shadow frequency, intimacy is the gift frequency, and transparency is the city, which is like the most divine state you could go to. So I just want to point out too that in the Gene Keys, like, this is your journey. I'm here to guide you through it, but it's important that everybody know, and like one of the foundations of my work is that like this comes from within you. I'm here to guide or ask questions, but I really want you to look at your Gene Keys first. And there's a thing that Richard Rudd, the creator of the Gene Keys, calls contemplation, which means to, look into that work, your spheres first, before you gather information externally. I feel like is an important thing to mention. So with these 3 frequencies, it becomes higher and more activated as you do this contemplating. Just that pretty much is that I'm kind of like a way to guide you through this and kind of a channel for this kind of information. But these gifts and these cities are yours and yours to contemplate. So look at it first. So I would recommend, if you are interested in this work, to get the Gene Keys book, or you can find all this information. This is on each one of the 64 codons in the Gene Keys. But you can also get audios of it online at the Gene Keys website. Okay, so the first one that we're going to look at is the life's work and the brand key, which is at the top in the center there. And so it's a sphere that comes with 2 different definitions because we circle back around to it, and it happens to be life's work and your brand key. So it's kind of the main one. So I'm going to explain what both of these mean. The life's work is also connected to your sun sign in astrology. It's where your purpose meets the outside world. So this can be a journey in its own. Like, I've sat and looked at mine, which is the 59, you can see, which comes up in other areas. So it's a very prominent energy in my chart. But it's become very clear to me as I contemplate these words and these definitions as how I use this in my purpose and what I'm here to do. So you can see that my shadow is dishonesty. So I'll use myself as an example. Is that when and I first noticed this dishonesty with myself. So where I was actually doing the same thing I explained earlier, like looking outside for solutions and not coming up with it internally. And so there was a total dissatisfaction all the time. And this is coming from someone who's like branded for a lot of years, and branding myself was the hardest thing I had to do. I think because I wasn't in tune with my own essence, right? So that's like my fundamental nature. And for a good portion of my life, I wasn't really clear on it, I guess you could say. I knew it was there, and I knew when it felt good and things were moving in flow, but also it wasn't consistent, right? So now that I have this strategy of knowing, I kind of compare this to a lot of the work I do and use this as my underlying fundamental strategy. Like, I have a lot of Virgo placement, and I like strategy as much as I like mysticism as well. So that really helps me to, kind of come back to the system to look and see, am I creating in alignment with my, fundamental nature, my essence? So another area of this is the brand, which is, I believe, as well as your conscious Mercury, if you're into astrology as well. And so this is the style and frequency of your outward expression. It is the expression of your innermost essence. So this sphere alone, if you were to just sit and contemplate this sphere, which is a very prominent energy because it's our sun energy, and also Mercury, which is our, expression, our communication, becomes very important when you're branding, when you're putting out what your most heartfelt ideas, and you want to be aligned with your business. This is a really core area to understand. Also, the brand, it also attracts your true allies in life once you're tapped into that frequency. And we'll go to another area that also helps you with your allies. But when you find out, when you're living from this, at least the gift frequency, the city sometimes is maybe harder to obtain, but the gift frequency, the middle word there is intimacy for me. So I know that when I am acting out of my truth, and when I'm being maybe a bit more vulnerable, especially in my one-on-one work, like, we go deep, right? There's no really holding back. And that's where I find I'm most aligned and I'm most able to help people, is when there's like this total vulnerable, authentic conversation going on. And that's another thing that I found out, like, if you ever have been like not one for maybe small talk or something, right? And yes, small talk for me has always been kind of like an eye roller, and I didn't really know why, but like, yeah, I freaking enjoy deep conversations, and I like going into a deep kind of philosophical nature. So this kind of stuff, you can see, aligns with my true essence. So then once I started figuring this out, it made me feel much more confident in my brand, or what I was putting out to the world. And yeah, it involves some visuals, but that's involved kind of down the road. I think what a lot of people are missing is this like foundational part of figuring out, like, we can all go on and find some cool visuals we like, but if you're not like connected to them or aligned with it, or you're just putting out cool visuals, which is fine too. But once you make this like marriage between yourself and what your work you're putting out, it feels more authentic and more, I guess, in tune to a unique perspective of you. And that's what we need more of in our branding. Like, you don't want to be the vanilla that everybody's doing. You want to pull something from this inner genius and give it to people. That's what's going to make your brand pop, right? The next sphere that we look at is the vocation sphere, which is the one that says core and the number that says 40 on mine, 40.2. So the vocation is actually also two spheres as well, the vocation and your core wound. So the cool thing, core wound is like, there's a saying there's a quote within the Gene Keys book that says, our suffering is often the place where our journey begins. And I always love it, because I look around at a lot of the people I work with, and I can see Carly is on here. Awesome. Hello. A lot of the people that I work with, the journey that you've been on, or the big like problem, I guess you could say, not the best word to say, but that you've dealt with in your life often becomes the biggest gift, right? So a lot of people are finding that their greatest gift is within this challenge that they've had in their life. And so that's what this sphere is all about. This is also your unconscious Mars. So if you're familiar with your human design, it's your unconscious Mars. It's your inner calling. It's also your core wound, which will become your vocation. Now, the thing about this is that you'll reach this when you start to open your heart up. So when you start to process whatever grief it's been through, what you've been through, what challenges you've overcome, what mountain you've climbed, this is when you're going to start to see your vocation really shine through. And so this is where your creative and genius reside, and where you can embody your creative potential. So also a very cool sphere to look into. The next one that I'm going to talk about is your culture, which in this one you can see again is my 59. It's the sphere within that little inner triangle on the right hand side. 59.2, it says culture above it. So this is also where this is your unconscious Jupiter in human design. So it is the group of like-minded companions and allies who will aid you in fulfilling your purpose. So we look at this again as maybe your posse, or your tribe, your people. This is a really interesting one because it says that as you move into your true nature, you become more aligned with these other people. So as you begin to up level your frequency in all of these spheres, you now start to become more attractive to your tribe, your fractal line, as they call it in the gene keys. And then it's, if you've ever heard people about even just clearing energy work, or clearing as you become more clear in this energy, as you start to have these epiphanies and realizations, you'll see that synchronicities start to line up in your life more and become more in flow with what your actual intention is. So as you begin to realize what your intentions are, naturally this flow starts happening. And if anybody has any questions they want to ask me, in this live or after, please, by all means, let me know. Totally welcome to ask any kind of questions. And then the last sphere that I'm going to look at is the purpose sphere, which is down in the bottom center here. And mine is 34, which is the shadow of force, the gift of strength, and the city of majesty. So purpose is about what we do. It is a byproduct of our being. It's not about what we do. Sorry. It's not about what we do. It's a byproduct of our being. So kind of more of a natural state again, right? Because we can get confused with what we're doing again as external, what should we do? I know in human design, we've all heard, anyone who's familiar with human design, there's a concept called conditioning. And I really think this is something that a lot of people, should bring their attention to and really consider, working on, because conditioning is something that we can carry with us our whole life. And conditioning can start as we are children, right? So we've been conditioned to believe things are a certain way. It forms kind of the foundation of a lot of our beliefs. And if we picked up on that because, say, our mother told us or a teacher told us, and subconsciously we have this thought that's continuously running in our mind all the time, which is driving our conscious, which is driving what we think we should be doing. So conditioning And the process of deconditioning is actually becoming aware of these subconscious behaviors that you formed as a child, so to say, or you can form them at any time in life, really. But deconditioning is becoming aware of those and identifying those personality traits or beliefs that you have, and realizing, okay, maybe this isn't mine. Maybe this is just something someone else told me, and I've been living a good portion of my life thinking that this was the right way to do it. So conditioning kind of is huge, especially now, and it's deep, of course, for just branding. But if you look at it through the lens of branding, if you are not aligned with the work you're doing, if you're not aligned with your true essence, are you going to love what you're doing? Are you going to be proud of the work you put out, of the posts you make, of the next offer you make, of the way you're presenting yourself online? And yes, these are all things we have to consider now in the progression of our evolution, which is a lot of our communication comes from images and words that we're putting onto the internet that other people are going to read or see or hear. So our brand becomes very important in that way. The other parts of the purpose sphere, again, it's about the quality of our consciousness. So that's the same thing that I'm talking about. Consciousness is what we're putting forth into the world, what we actually talk about and how we talk about it. So what our beliefs are, our core values, that sort of thing. Your purpose is unlocked by actually living your life. And again, you are touched on it, or you're called upon it in any challenges that come up. So the one thing that I think is really important as well, and it also, again, maybe seems deep for, the traditional, typical way of branding, but that's not what I do here. The way I brand is a concept that I've come up with myself. So these challenges are what we call the shadow frequencies, and all of these is like the first place I would look and analyze in these areas of life, because again, from the shadows comes these gifts, right? And it's so easy to live in the shadow of something because that's what we've been doing and forming the habits and been on repeat doing. So when there's a word like dishonesty, you can now take that word and start contemplating it and say, where am I dishonest in life with what I'm doing? And it really starts to, once I think you're aware of the shadow frequency, the lowest frequency, the rest starts to naturally kind of uplift on its own. That is kind of the last sphere I'm going to touch on today. So yeah, if you haven't got your Gene Keys profile, go to www.genekeys.com and just put in your birth information, and you can get a free profile, and you can get what looks like this that I'm sharing on the screen right now, and you can start to look at yours. Maybe start to look at the green ones I've circled, or the outer path, which is the path of the genius. So that's the one that starts at the top, it goes down to the right, across to the green one over on the left, and then the bottom. Anyways, it doesn't really matter how you look at it. It's just kind of to start looking at it, and feel free to ask me any questions. Now I'm going to talk about what I'm doing as far as branding and the Gene Key. So I've come up with a process that involves a lot of energetics and somatics, as well as unearthing and going through these strategies with these systems, as well as your intuition, to unearth your brand essence. So, even if you don't even have a business, this could be good for you as well, because now you're just starting to think, okay, who am I truly? You're starting to kind of really come in tune with this honest truth of yourself, right? So the Gene Keys is not meant for just branding. It is meant as a life kind of tool, right? It's a life purpose tool, essentially, right? So the way I'm looking at it is just in a small little area of where you can apply it. So I have something called Brand Inception, which is an 8-week one-on-one mentorship. So the system that I'm using is using the Gene Keys and the astrology, and we're going to tap in also human design to tap into your brand essence. It's a done with you branding design, so you do some of the work, and I'm not designing anything for you, but I'm guiding you along the process. And the designing, the actual like physical visuals are going to be like the last step. There is 5 steps that kind of come before that. I'm just going to read my sign here. There, first it's figuring out the essence, the alignment with that essence. Step 3 is the embodiment of your essence. So like having that trust in yourself that this is your embodiment. The 4th one is, again, the connection. So connecting really to what your brand is about, how the energy is actually going to, how your belief in the energy of your true essence is actually going to spill over into your audience and attract those right people. The 5th step is how we're bridging it together. So we're kind of taking this mysticism and bridging it and tying it into the strategy of your brand. So like I call it 1 part mystical and 1 part strategy, because I do believe that both of these are needed to form your brand and to run a business. And then the last part is the tangibles, where we're actually going to be doing the design work. And so that will be guided through my, what I know about design and my experience. I've had like 20 years in design. So, things will go over like graphic design, concepts and the fundamentals of graphic design, kind of analyzing anything you've done. Right now, I also have 3 bonuses when you sign up. One of them is like an analysis of what you're currently doing. So I call it like a brand kind of audit, where I'm looking at what you currently have, telling you what I feel about it and how it looks. So it can either be your Instagram or a web landing page. The next bonus is templates for you. So Canva templates. That will be for social media packs. And also the 3rd bonus that I'm doing for this is if you sign up before the 13th, you'll get a free bonus call with me, which will be like a done with you design. So maybe we do it at the end where you're now clear on what you want to design and how you want to design things, but I will go in there with you live and help you design, make any kind of micro adjustments or big adjustments, and like really polish up your design stuff. So some of the things that I feel that this will be good for, and feel free to ask me any questions if you have any questions. Just pop them in the chat right now, or you can send me a direct message afterwards. But some of the problems I feel like this is a solve for people who are building their brand is like where you're having confusion about your core message and your direction. So gaining clarity in your message. Maybe you have these like big dreams and these ideas, but how do you translate them to like a visual brand identity? The other thing is like being authentic, right? So if you've struggled, and like it's a thing, people have struggled being authentic because we're constantly bombarded by everyone else's, do it this way ideas, and often we're told now, especially like online, this is the way to do it, this is the clear path to success, when like you try it and you're like, oh, it's not working. So like authentic way of showing yourself, not having to feel fake about your work, which is a true problem, I think, online nowadays. The other thing that I feel like it will help is like this fear, like this stopping and not doing because you're fearful of doing it wrong. So we're going to like build that self-trust and, so you feel good about what you're putting out and good about doing it next time. And now you're going to keep on a consistent schedule, and now you're going to be committed to your promise. The other things I think is that it's more of a consistent online presence. So we're going to build out a brand book for you where that's going to be like your Bible for your brand across all your different mediums. So socials, website, any other marketing that you put out, it's all going to be consistent. So we're now going to have this lovely little Bible for you to reference every time you go out on your own and start to create your designs. So because it's an 8 weeks commitment journey, there's going to be a lot of support for you to like stay inspired, which is another thing I think people struggle with a lot when you're on your own. Like, who do you talk to about this stuff? People, even if you have someone, like I go to my husband a lot, but it's like, does he really know about my true core ideas, my brand? Also someone that's educated in just the design principles and like the strategy of it all. So I'm going to be that person, that support person for you. Hey. And then another thing is that like people who have had their brand done before sometimes are disconnected from it. Some people love doing their own design work, and if you enjoy that and you find joy in it, like great, do it for sure. But there's also a level of learning how to do it, so that it's cohesive and presented aesthetically pleasing and that sort of thing. So you'll feel, more connected to what you're designing, and you're also kind of putting a little piece of yourself into it too. So there's a like, yeah, I designed this, awesome, we're going to go through some of like the technical stuff, like if in Canva, if you need help or that sort of thing, that's always going to be there. So, I think that's about it, guys. But if you have any questions, definitely let me know. I'm totally open anytime to answer any questions or just to chat further. You can send me a DM and we can go back and forth and see if this is for you. Because I definitely think, this is not this branding solution for everyone. If someone wants done for you design, there's other solutions for that. So if you do not want to touch your branding at all, or you don't want to be involved with the creation of it, this is not for you. I think that's everything that I'm going to present. Everything I'm going to present for today. Sorry, I was on there for a long time. But if there's anything that comes up, let me know. Love to hear from you. You can check out Brand Inception. It's on I just made a post about it today where you can view the slides about it, and I have a web page for it. You can see that in the link in my bio. And love to chat more with you about it. And that is all for today. Have a good one, guys.